It started like any other deal. A wealthy man with a love for real estate, known for flipping rundown places into stunning homes, came across an abandoned house on the edge of a small, forgotten town. It was tucked away behind overgrown trees and rusted gates, the kind of place that had been left to time. Most people avoided it, saying it gave off a strange feeling. But to him, it was just another investment, until he stepped inside. The air was thick and still untouched for what seemed like decades. Dust clung to the walls, furniture was draped in white sheets, and cobwebs hung like curtains from the ceilings. The house looked empty, lost to the world, exactly what he expected. But then something felt off. It wasn't the creaking floorboards or the flickering light from the hallway. No, it was something else. A presence. He couldn't explain it, but it stopped him in his tracks. As he slowly moved deeper into the house, the silence seemed to press in. His footsteps echoed through the hollow rooms. He was about to turn back when he noticed a door, half open at the end of the hall. He pushed it gently, and the hinges groaned. The room inside was darker, colder, and that's when he saw her. In the far corner, almost hidden behind a broken armchair, sat a girl. She looked no older than 16, curled up, her eyes wide and empty. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just stared. The millionaire froze, his breath caught in his chest, every instinct screaming that something wasn't right. How could she be here? Was she living here? Hiding? Hurt? He tried to speak, but no words came out, and just as he took a cautious step forward, she did something that sent chills down his spine, something he never expected. What was this girl's story? Who was she? And why was she in a house that was supposed to be completely abandoned? This was no ordinary real estate deal anymore. It was just the beginning of something far darker and far more real than he ever imagined. He stood there, staring at her, heart pounding so loud he could hear it echo in his ears. The girl didn't speak. She didn't even blink. Just stared, as if she'd been waiting. The room felt colder now, as if the temperature had dropped the moment he entered. He opened his mouth again to ask if she was okay, but still, nothing. It was like something was telling him not to move too fast, not to scare her off, or worse. The millionaire, whose name was Daniel, had made his fortune through smart deals and risky renovations. But no amount of experience had prepared him for this. He glanced around the room, old wallpaper peeling from the walls, broken picture frames on the floor, and a shattered mirror leaning against the far wall. There were signs of life: an old blanket crumpled on the floor near her feet, a half-burnt candle, and a rusty tin can beside her. Someone had been living here. But why? And how long? He slowly stepped forward, careful not to make any sudden noise. "Hey," he said gently, "are you all right? Do you need help?" Still no response. But something in her eyes shifted, just for a moment, like fear, or maybe recognition. That flicker was enough to make him pause again. Daniel wasn't the kind of man to scare easily, but something about the house, about this girl, made everything inside him feel uncertain. Who was she? Was she trapped? Had someone left her here? 1,000 questions raced through his mind, and with each one, the weight of the mystery grew heavier. Outside, the wind had picked up, rattling the old windows. The house creaked like it was alive, reacting to every move he made. He reached for his phone, no signal. Of course, he was too far out, surrounded by woods, the closest neighbor miles away. He wasn't even sure if anyone knew he was out here today. He turned back to the girl. Her lips parted, like she was about to speak. But then, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. Daniel froze again. Someone else was in the house. The thud echoed through the walls like a warning. Daniel's breath caught as he looked toward the staircase just outside the room. The sound hadn't been distant, it was close, directly above them. The girl's head turned slowly toward the ceiling, her eyes wide, still unblinking. For the first time, Daniel noticed a subtle tremble in her hands. She knew something he didn't. Is someone else here? he asked in a hushed voice, more to himself than to her. She didn't answer, but the silence said enough. He backed out of the room carefully, glancing once more at the girl. She hadn't moved from the corner. It was like she didn't dare to. The wooden stairs groaned under his weight as he climbed them, each step heavier than the last. The hallway upstairs was darker, narrower. The walls were lined with old family photos, faces faded and blurred, like time had tried to erase them. At the far end of the hallway, one door stood slightly ajar. That's where the sound had come from. He reached out, fingers brushing the doorknob, when another noise broke the silence, a soft creak behind him. He spun around, heart racing. Nothing, just shadows. But the air felt different now, like it was pressing in from all sides. Meanwhile, downstairs, the girl remained still. But inside, panic stirred. She remembered the man who used to live here, the one who locked doors and whispered to himself in the night. She remembered being told to never make a sound, to stay in the corner, to disappear. But he had been gone for weeks. Or so she thought. Until today. Daniel stepped into the upstairs room. It looked like a study. Old books stacked in uneven piles, a broken desk, and an old radio crackling faintly in the corner. On the wall, strange symbols had been carved into the wood. Circles, arrows, dates, and in the middle, scribbled in black marker, were the words, asterisk, she never left asterisk. Daniel turned pale. Something was very wrong with this house, and whatever was going on here, he was no longer just a visitor. Daniel's hands trembled as he stepped back from the wall, the words asterisk, she never left asterisk burning into his mind. The strange symbols surrounding them weren't just random. Someone had carved them with purpose. Warnings? Messages? He didn't know, but they gave him a sinking feeling in his gut. The radio continued to crackle in the background, whispering static that somehow made the silence even heavier. Just then, the floor creaked again, but this time not beneath him. It was coming from the hallway. Slow, deliberate steps. Someone, or something, was moving. He backed toward the desk, looking for anything he could use, anything to protect himself. All he found was an old flashlight and a rusted letter opener. He gripped it tight anyway. As he peeked into the hallway, his breath caught. The figure at the end of the corridor wasn't clear, just a shadow barely visible in the dim light. It stood still, unmoving, just watching. Daniel couldn't tell if it was a person or a trick of the shadows. But something about it felt asterisk wrong asterisk. He called out, "Who's there?" No answer. The shadow tilted its head slightly, and then, just like that, it vanished. Daniel rushed downstairs, 2 steps at a time. He needed to get out, to call someone, to figure out who this girl was and what this place really was. But when he reached the bottom, the room where the girl had been was empty. She was gone. Panic rose in his chest. He called her name, though he didn't even know it, and ran from room to room. Nothing. It was like she'd never been there at all. Then, from the basement door came a sound. A whisper, faint, but clear. His name. He froze. He had never told her his name. Slowly, as if drawn by something beyond logic, he stepped toward the basement. The door creaked open on its own. Cold air rushed past him, and from the darkness below, he heard it again. Daniel. He stared into the pitch black, knowing that whatever was down there was waiting for him. Daniel stood frozen at the top of the basement stairs, the cold air wrapping around him like a warning. The whisper of his name echoed again from below, softer this time, almost like it came from inside his own head. He wanted to turn back, to leave the house and never return, but something deeper pulled at him. Curiosity? Fear? Maybe both. Either way, his feet began to move, one step at a time into the darkness. The stairs groaned beneath him, dust rising with each careful step. He reached the bottom and clicked on the flashlight. The beam barely cut through the thick blackness. The basement was large, the air damp and heavy. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old boxes, broken tools, and jars filled with strange things he couldn't identify. But it wasn't the objects that stopped him. It was the wall straight ahead. It wasn't made of stone or brick like the others. It was wood, newer, fresher, and built to cover something. Daniel walked toward it, his heart racing. He pressed his hand against the wooden boards and felt a breeze coming through a small crack. Without thinking, he grabbed a rusted crowbar nearby and started prying the boards loose. The wood gave way easily, like it had been waiting. Behind it, a narrow tunnel stretched forward, carved into the earth itself. The flashlight flickered, and then he heard something that made his blood run cold, a quiet sobbing echoing from deep inside. He followed the sound, each step more uneasy than the last. As the tunnel widened slightly, the beam of light caught something ahead, another figure. But this wasn't the girl from upstairs. This was another girl, pale, thinner, eyes sunken, chained to a metal pipe. Daniel stumbled back in shock. There were two of them. Before he could move, a loud slam echoed behind him. The entrance to the tunnel had shut. He spun around and ran to it, but it was sealed tight. Trapped. And then, from behind him, the second girl whispered, "You shouldn't have come here. He's still in the house." Daniel's heart dropped. He was never alone in that house to begin with. Daniel's breath quickened as he backed away from the chained girl. Her eyes, hollow but alert, followed his every move. "He's still in the house," she repeated, her voice a whisper full of warning. The air in the tunnel grew colder, the flashlight flickering again until it finally gave out, plunging them into darkness. He could hear movement now, footsteps above them, slow and steady, pacing the floorboards. Whoever he wasn't a memory. He was real, and he was watching. Daniel dropped to his knees, feeling blindly for the boards he had pulled off. There had to be a way out. Behind him, the girl spoke again. "He kept us here, said we were part of the house now, said no one would care." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, Daniel sensed more than fear. She was trying to help him. With shaking hands, he found the crowbar again and slammed it against the wooden entrance. Over and over. Finally, the boards splintered, letting in a sliver of light. He kicked through the rest and climbed back into the basement. But as he turned to help the girl, she was gone. No sound, no trace, just cold air and the distant creak of footsteps above. He ran up the stairs, back into the living room, and stopped. Standing in the center was the first girl. She looked different now, calmer, stronger. "You opened it," she said quietly. "You freed her." Daniel was still trying to process everything when he heard it again, that voice. A man's voice this time, low and broken. "You ruined everything." From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, disheveled, eyes sunken, wearing a torn coat. The former owner, the man who had vanished years ago. He lunged, but Daniel was ready. He swung the crowbar, striking him hard. The man fell, unconscious. Police arrived minutes later, thanks to a timed message Daniel had sent before entering the tunnel, just in case. The girls were found. The man was arrested. But the twist came days later. The house was searched top to bottom. No records of the girls, no tunnel, and Daniel's phone. Completely wiped clean. In the days that followed, Daniel struggled to make sense of what had happened. The police searched every inch of the house, but there was no tunnel, no sign of the girls, and no evidence the man he'd seen had ever lived there. It was as if the house had swallowed every trace of the truth. Even his phone, which should have had the photos and emergency message, was completely blank. Not a single file left. Just a black screen and a dead battery. News of the incident didn't spread far. Small-town authorities chopped it up to stress, maybe hallucination, even suggested Daniel had fallen and hit his head. But Daniel knew what he saw. He knew he wasn't alone in that house. The abandoned property was quietly boarded up again, sold off anonymously, and forgotten like it had been before. Still, Daniel couldn't shake the memory. The first girl's stare, the second girl's whisper, the strange writing on the wall. They stayed with him. He started digging into the history of the property, old records, missing persons reports, anything that could confirm his experience. He found fragments. A man who once owned the house and disappeared without a trace. Rumors about girls who'd run away and were never seen again, but nothing concrete, nothing provable. Months passed. Daniel moved on, or at least tried to. But some nights, when the wind howled through the trees outside his new home, he thought about the voice in the tunnel, the way the door slammed shut behind him, and the message carved into the wall, *, she never left *. That house wasn't just abandoned, it was hiding something, and maybe it still is. For Daniel, the experience changed everything. What started as just another real estate project became the story he'd never tell in full, not because he didn't want to, but because no one would believe it. So the house remains quiet now, overgrown, unclaimed. But if you ever find yourself near it, if you ever think about stepping inside, just remember this story and think twice. Some places aren't meant to be found, and some people never truly leave.